But we're here to talk about The Witcher a little bit.
The Witcher 3,
this
because
week.
you guys went to Poland a couple weeks ago, and you've been crafting, lovingly, dare I say, this video series that like really just kind of like it investigates these different aspects of the franchise in a way that's, I think, really cool for like sort of before release coverage, because normally you can really only get that in depth afterwards.
Yeah.
But you're also kind of not doing the spoiler thing.
Yeah, it's real hard to skirt that line. Like we're making 3 videos, like they're all like about 10, 15 minutes each. So they're pretty packed full of information, but yeah, the first one's kind of just like the interesting story about like the history of CD Projekt, or CD Projekt, as we were.
Yeah, you were dropping the
told.
CD in there.
Yeah, that's all they refer to it as, so we couldn't not call it that.
Fair enough.
And the second one dives into a lot more about like what the world is like. We sort of debuted the map for the first time, which
that's cool.
Yeah, and it kind of took a while for us to figure out what the hell was going on with the map, because
it's
you
not
zoom out
really
and it's not really one big world. It's kind of like 2 big worlds stuck together, and then there's a bunch of like almost like instance little areas that are like inside buildings that are away from there.
So the way you've described it, like you've described the game as sort of a fantasy Red Dead Redemption kind of feeling. But Red Dead Redemption, entirely contiguous, just one map, right? But then you have, on the other hand, at the end of last year, Dragon Age Inquisition, which had large areas, but they were fast. You couldn't travel between them.
Yeah.
You have to fast travel. And some of them were just like a city center, so they're much smaller than like the wilds that were elsewhere. So it seems like this one, you know, certainly in terms of its formal structure, is more like Dragon Age. But I guess in terms of your comparison,
I'd
how
say
did
it's more
it feel
like
when you were going around?
I'd say it's more like Red Dead. What it actually kind of feels like is, you know the way Shadow of Mordor had like one big map?
Yeah.
And then, you know, not really spoilers at this stage, I don't think, a little while into it, you're like, oh my god, there's a whole other big map. It's kind of like that, except the map size is more the size of Red Dead Redemption.
Okay.
So it's like one big map with like all the stuff to do. And then once you unlock the Skelligals, which we didn't, and we were about 6 hours in, that's like a whole other one. Like that's 5 whole islands together. So it's kind of like that. It's definitely not as limiting as like, well, you've played a lot more Dragon Age than I have, Andy.
Remember how there's a horse in Dragon Age as well? No one used that thing. I didn't
barely use that.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
In this one, you have to use the horse.
Roach is great.
Like people have been comparing this to like Skyrim and saying like, oh, it's like this much bigger than Skyrim and stuff. But like in Skyrim, you fucking walked everywhere.
Because it was awesome.
Yeah.
You wanted to.
And like, no wonder it wasn't so big, because you're not pelting around on the horse the whole time. In this, like, Roach, your horse, you're with basically the entire time. So you're always running around Red Dead style.
Whenever people talk about like this game world is bigger than that game world, I mean, it's kind of like interesting from a technical level, but in terms of gameplay experience, I feel like it's in the same realm as like, how many players does this multiplayer game have? It's like the number doesn't mean anything outside. What means something is how they balance it, how the game sort of makes you feel in that space. And if you're feeling like Red Dead in these maps, then I mean, that sounds
great.
great.
Sort of felt. It's kind of hard to judge after only playing like 6 hours to really feel like the variety of the quests and stuff, like how engaging it'll be like hours into the game. Most of that stuff we've covered in video 3, but since you're here, Andy, is there anything like specific you want to talk about that we didn't cover in the videos? Because there's quite a lot we didn't kind of by design, and then there's other stuff we sort of forgotten about. But in either respect, is there anything like we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
Well, the problem was there's some of the stuff is kind of too complex, and maybe we don't want to cover it because it's like stuff that's fun to figure out on your own. Like the leveling system is a lot different than the other games, but I can't for the life of me. Maybe it's because I was just like jet lagged to shit. Well, I can't explain it other than it's like divided into sections that unlock at level cap. So it's like 1 through 10, you have this many things, and like 10 through 20, it unlocks like 4 more skills, and then you can like put skills in and out, and then there's a mutagen slot within those ones that like if they're color coded, so they line up to the certain skills, it gives you even a bonus to that skill. Okay. Which I don't know if that makes any sense.
Sort of a way of like reinforcing similar skill groups.
Yeah, or just
or like
coming up with
min-maxing
like styles, and they're all over the place. Like I was thinking, oh, the one I got was useless because I was never going to play that way, or whatever. You know, like you can really get your.
Do they tend to be sort of like, you know, if you want to be using the crossbow a bunch and dodging, if you want to be using signs.
The crossbow's weird. The crossbow is like, they give you a crossbow after the first like the first fight, like prologue fight, which is this like super scripted griffin fight, which is good for your first boss fight, because you're sort of a monster fight, because you're just getting used to it.
Yeah.
But it's this like scripted griffin fight where you fight a griffin, and then after like its health bar goes down half, it like flies away, and you run after it on your horse, and then you fight it. But the crossbow was literally it's
pretty useless.
No damage. It was only used to like get him to come down.
Maybe, but I think he even did anyway.
I think he did anyway.
But yeah, it's funny because in the books it's like explicit about it's like they don't use projectiles or something. And then
really?
In the game, he like one of the Vesemir just kind of like winks and he's like, "Take the crossbow." And Geralt's like, "What am I doing with this?" And he's like, "No, you can use it."
There's lots of nice little winks to the books.
Yeah, it's cool. There's so many good references to the books.
So you guys have been reading the books a little bit?
Yeah, I read the first book. You read a bunch of them beforehand.
Just two.
I read the first one before we went to Poland, just to get the sort of a deeper
flavor of it,
feeling of it. Yeah, because Andy's completed the first two Witcher games. I haven't. I didn't play one, and I played like not much of two at all. I was one of those people that found it like really intimidating. I just couldn't for the life of me. It's not. Yeah, I was impatient, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of systems too. I mean, there's sort of it's a world that is rich, but in The Witcher 2 it was sort of like that richness. I feel like it came upon you all at once a little bit. This one, it seems like they're doing a prologue, they're doing an early sort of starting area. You guys talked about this in your video that posted yesterday a lot. So I guess like just sort of starting out and getting into the open world.
Fuck off! Love that guy. No.
Then fuck off.
One of the things that when you start out in an open world that you guys both said is like, once we got free, I just wanted to like run as far as I could.
Yeah.
And so part of that is just the natural exploration instinct. Part of it is also like, it's a preview window. I only have so much time to like get out after it. How do you feel, I guess, in terms of like exploration versus getting drawn back to following a quest? Could you get any sense of that in the short time that you were able to play?
I mean, one thing I immediately noticed was like, from the first two games, I had this mindset of like, what to do, and I was like walking around the world, and then I realized, there's a river there. I guess they don't want me going over there. But then I realized, oh wait, I can swim in this game. You can definitely not do in the other two. So I'm like, I'll go in the river, and then you go in the river. There's like all this stuff in the river, like treasures and secrets, and you're like, I don't have time to go do this. And then I was like wanting to really see this quest through that I picked up like randomly by going into some like herbalist's house. She was like, you need to craft this potion. And I was like, okay, what do I need to get this potion? Like 10 drowner things. I forget what you get.
Drowners are one of these like one of the monsters.
They kind of hang out at wet spots like that.
Everywhere.
And I was like, well, now I got to farm 10 drowners, but like with the constraints of being only there for
we had like 6
time,
hours
I was
to
like,
play.
I really want to see this quest through, but like I can't sit here and farm 10 drowners.
Dude, I kept so like at one stage it felt like when you're like, level 5 in World of Warcraft, because you're picking up quests, and we get into it in the next video a bit more. You're picking up quests all the time, and they're leveled. So like I was level 4, and at one stage I just booked it across the map, and I was like, I'm gonna go into this town, and I found this really crazy quest which had like, you had to like go into different parts of this forest and figure out where this ghost was, and they had all these question marks around it. You had to figure out where it exactly was, and it was like a level 33, and I was like, so at one stage in the map, by the time we finished playing our 6 hours, I had like the main quest, all these secondary quests which split off from the main quest, and then random ones that I picked up, and they're all like level 4, level 3, level 2, level 8, level 11. So like you're constantly picking this stuff up. It's almost like you're gonna have to like go back and find them. And because the game continues on after you're finished playing it, like I have a feeling it's gonna be one of these games where when people complete it, they're actually going to be able to like just jaunt around in quests like for hours afterwards.
And with the free DLC sort of approach they're
horse
having,
armor.
I mean they've like not really clarified exactly what kind of DLC there's going to be. It seems
there's some quests in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's the opportunity for that certainly.
I think those expansion packs are going to basically. You might have seen on yesterday's video the overworld map we showed. I think the second expansion pack is a new area. I think it's like going to just get stuck on the map there.
Just boom, open it up.
Yeah, and you can roll Geralt in there.
Yeah.
His highest level I think is 60. They said something about 100 to us, so we never got confirmation, but I think maybe that your progression and all that stuff will keep going as well. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Dude, so like, I guess I want to sort of ask, the hype train for this is like rolling pretty strong, and we've, that's something that we juggle here, right? Like how much hype is sort of like, we're just excited for a new thing, but how much is like, this game actually has me legit excited? Do you think it's reaching fatigue point? Do you think like it's coming into the station finally? It's like out in less than a month.
Yeah. I think a lot. So that's like one of the main problems with doing these is that we're going to make 3 videos about this game. We did because we were interested in it. We went out there actually when there was a bunch of games coming out. So around that time, it was like, oh, here's another game that's...
Yeah, it was like Bloodborne was out.
Yeah, like started this month. It was crazy for like good releases. I went out there being like sort of cautiously optimistic as somebody who never dove into the other 2. Like, you're a big fan of them. By the time I left there, I was like, this is like, bro, this is
like
really
the next few months of my gaming sorted.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't want to, like, you can't tell after playing for 6 hours if it's going to keep you engaged at that level.
Yeah.
But I got that feeling like when we left, we didn't talk about it intentionally, but the first hour or whatever of the game, we don't refer to, or want to leave it for people, but when that finished and you're sort of left out into the prologue area for the first time, I had one of those feelings when we got on the horse, you get on Roach and you walk down the path, and like the landscape is like, they do it in a place that's like, it looks gorgeous.
Of course.
And it felt like that Fallout 3 moment when you leave Vault 101 and it's like, boom, there you go.
There it
motherfucker, go have fun.
Get on
blow
out
up
there.
a city.
So it feels like that.
not.
So
Yeah.
I think it has all the ingredients of being a really great game, but like, we can't really tell. We've only played for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Time will tell, yeah.